Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure for us to be here. Welcome to our EGADE webinars, Leadership in the Context of COVID. This afternoon, we have prepared a panel of experts that will share with us their perspective of what is going to be the future of the global education. My name is Juan Enciso. I'm a director of OneMBA and GBS program at EGADE. And we are honored to have two guest speakers, global citizens. They're going to share with us their perspective, and we have collected questions for them. Let me introduce our speakers today. First, I'd like to introduce John Quelch, a British living in the US, global citizen. John, welcome. He's the Vice Provost, University of Miami, Dean, Miami Herbert Business School. He has, I won't read all your resume, John, because it's very long, but he has worked in different organizations, including Harvard School, China, Europe International Business School, London Business School. He has published more than 25 books. And I know that you are frequently interviewed in the US TV, because I see it. Welcome, John, and thank you for being here. Let me introduce my colleague, Juan Freire, Spaniard living in Mexico, global citizen as well. He is the Associated Academic Dean, Business School Tecnológico. Juan, welcome. He is a leader and strategist for open organizations, an innovation expert on innovation systems. He's co-founder of Team Labs, a company that developed Latin Labs, member of International Network of Entrepreneurial Education, and part of board of several organizations. Juan, welcome. Thank you for being here. So thanks to you and the technical team and all the audience that we have today. Hopefully everybody can see and listen to us very well. Thank you for those who posted your questions. We have a challenge today. We've been, probably all of us in our audience have been in different webinars, we've seen the news, we've seen all these situations during, and post-COVID world. And I'd like to start with an obligated question for both of you. What is your perspective? What is going to happen after, when all this finish, when we go back to the new reality? What will be the challenge, opportunities? How do we prepare now for the future? We're going to get back to the education, but now I'd like to start first asking you, how do you see, what is your perspective? Day one, who wants to start? John, please. Can you?
Thank you very much, Juan, and appreciate the invitation from our friends at EGADE. We have, as many in the audience will know, many connections to Mexico and with alumni in Mexico, with faculty members from Mexico, and our president of the University of Miami is, of course, a former health minister of Mexico. So we really value our Mexican associations. I think the answer to your question is in three parts. First, you have to understand how to survive in the short term, and that is what we have been doing recently in terms of pivoting from in-class delivery to virtual delivery online. Secondly, you have to plan in the medium term for the relaunch of our institutions once we come through the restrictions imposed by the virus. One of the uncertainties, of course, is we don't know when exactly we're going to relaunch, and in the context of an industry that operates on a fixed and fairly rigid academic calendar, that presents a lot of problems. That means we have to do a lot of contingency planning, which you are doing, which we are doing at the moment, according to when we are going to be able to open for business in the traditional way. And then thirdly and lastly, we have to plan for the long term. What permanent disruptions to our industry, to our business model have occurred as a result of this unexpected shock. And in particular, that results in a discussion around the value of education and the value of in-person delivery versus online delivery, which I'm sure we'll get into further. But I think all businesses like our business in the business school arena, confronting those three issues: short-term survival, medium-term relaunch, long-term strategic agility.
Thank you, John. And it's still difficult to have a time frame. So what is short, medium, and long? Okay, Juan, can you share us your perspective?
Okay, thank you very much. In my case, with the brothers of EGADE, no? It's a pleasure to be here with you and to share with John and with all the people the ideas about the future. No, I agree with probably the key word is uncertainty. No, uncertainty in the timing, in the change, and in the future. From my point of view, to understand the new business landscape, we should embed this landscape in the new social landscape. What is happening right now as a society, no? Right now and in the near future. No? I discovered last week an idea that is half provocation and half joke, that some people is starting to talk about the post-COVID era as the Coronacene. No, instead of the Anthropocene is the Coronacene. No, it's a joke, but it's quite interesting. But because it's the idea that probably we are going to entering in an era of radical changes that affect everything about our life. But the first question for me is the crisis probably is going to be longer than a few months. Many people say that perhaps could be 1-2 years. It depends on many things about public health. And during this long time for a crisis, we are all going to enter in a new practice now, that is the test, tracing, isolation, and it's going to be part of our daily life. No, it's not. It's going to be part of our quotidianity. And I think everybody is going to develop a precautionary mindset. No, we are going to confront the life in a different way. And this is quite relevant. No, and related to this, probably our behavioral and social changes are going to last for longer periods from the crisis. No, probably they are going to be permanent. Social distance, extreme caution about public health, about travels, about public events, and everything. All these topics are relevant to understand the business of the near future. No, to put some examples of what I say are some attributes relevant for the new normal. The first is the physical distancing, and I think we are going to revert the trend in the last decades about the opening of the communities. We relate with many different people, and I think that in the physical aspect, we are going to close our relationships to the personal networks, where we are confident. The second one is we are shifting to remote or digital work. This is very clear, no? But these have many different implications in mobility patterns, in the net of new domestic spaces, or in new rituals or protocols for meetings or for team work. And we're moving in a side effect, but I think also relevant because universities and business schools are in cities, are in urban areas. Mm-hmm. We're moving to the idea of the safe mobility, and people is discussing right now. So we are moving to a future car-centered, or a future that is bike-centered, or a mix of them. No. And also many people is talking about the idea of escaping the city. No? So people that can work in a remote way, as for instance professors or leaders of universities or students, could move to suburban areas looking for more security, bigger homes, and things like that. No? All this stuff shows that we are going to confront systemic consequences. No, changes at all levels: social, cultural, economic, and what for me is quite relevant is we have great uncertainties, and our forecasts about the future are not sure right now. No, so in this sense, I think that the classical strategic planning, we need to change to other ways to thinking and planning about the futures. To finish, I think for business, all the products and services are going to be built and delivered to the customers in different ways. We are confronting the acceleration of the future. Probably all the foresights we have about the future were right, more or less, but are faster right now and will be here early than we think in the past. This is my view about that.
Thank you, Juan.
So I would agree that there are a number of changes that will be accelerated in a step change manner by this virus impact. However, I remember the 2008 recession, the Great Recession, and I remember a lot of conversation around that time that was not dissimilar to what we've just heard in terms of the way people behave and interact with each other. They will be more focused on family and friends, on local communities. Globalization is dead. And then 10 years later, it was going gangbusters again. So I think that you have to be a little bit cautious here. In terms of observing change over history, typically people over-forecast, and especially the media, over-forecast the speed with which changes will occur. But they under-forecast the speed with change occurs when it's a tipping point. When it reaches a tipping point, suddenly there's a floodgate open and change occurs much more quickly than linearly. And the question in my mind is, how long is this virus going to last in our lives? The longer it lasts, the more likely, of course, that there will be a tipping point reached where the changes that Juan has talked about will become permanent. The less long it lasts, the less likely those changes are to be permanent.
Thank you both, and that gets me to the second question. Companies, organizations, all types, we will need to how are we gonna see challenge there? How are we gonna see opportunities there in the new situation? That can be, what type of new leadership do you think we will need in organizations? Is totally different leader? Should we promote new types of leadership? What would be your perspective on this? We talk about we need a new leadership for the new world, but in reality, what type of leaders do you think we need?
Well, I think at one level you're looking at the same characteristics of leadership that have always prevailed since time immemorial, that you need principled leaders who have good analytical and problem-solving skills and can translate those into strategies and visions that are simple and powerful and communicable to a group of people who are needed in order to implement them. So I don't think the fundamentals have changed. Just to be amusing for a moment, I would say that, you know, the principal characteristic you need these days is what I call Zoom fortitude. In other words, the ability to still look fresh, exciting, interesting, charismatic, worth following after 10 non-stop hours of Zoom meetings during the course of a day. I have actually, to be honest, to show how old-fashioned I am, I've actually asked people specifically if I'm having one-on-one conversations to please use the telephone. Would it be okay to use the phone and not go on Zoom? Because, you know, it's just too difficult to continue in that mode I find, for a long period of time. So, you know, it is the Zoom enabled leader that we are really looking for to run the world from now on.
Good point, John. Juan?
Okay, I agree that probably this crisis is reinforcing some changes in the skills and of the leaders, of the business leaders. No, it's not changing the way they are leading, but they are reinforcing some change that we were looking in the last years. No, I would like to separate how is this new leadership in two aspects: the mindset and the skills. No. But it's related, but it's a way to explain me. In respect to the new mindset, I think that they need to live in manage under extreme uncertainty. That is a part of the new scenario. The second one is a very popular topic, is resilience. No, but I use resilience in a very concrete sense, that is in the engineering sense. No, be ready and able to react to any unexpected change, to keep the stability of the organization and the activities, continuing to provide value to the customers and to the stakeholders. And this, for me, is resilience. The third one is the agility and collaboration. I think it's quite important. And the reason for collaboration is very clear. It's the only way to keep the pace of change we need when we confront uncertainty. No? So, and collaboration is not about restructuring the organization. It's about a new culture, including permission, standards, objectives, incentives. And I think we are discovering that we need more and more collaboration in our organizations, and our organizations, when they are big, for instance, universities, were designed for other kind of work. No? And the final one should be the digital mindset, and John put a very good example. No? But for me, the digital mindset is a mix of the skills to use tools and the digital culture to be able to manage the relationships and the flows of information in a digital context or in a hybrid context. No? It's not only about tools, it's about culture. And in this sense, for me, the new skills of the leader are not new really, but are more important right now. For me, the first is the innovation and process toolbox. I refer to that, the idea of the agile methodologies, digital skills, strategic design, service designs. All this stuff is part of our toolbox to innovate and to develop efficient processes. The second one is the kind of leadership, the team leadership, the inclusive leadership. I talked previously about collaboration. Collaboration needs diverse teams, people with different profiles, with different focus, and so we need to manage this kind of teams. The third one for me could be that I think we are going to accelerate all the stuff related to data and to artificial intelligence. We are moving, and probably we are moving faster right now, to a new kind of organization that is an organization with a core, and the core are the data and the artificial intelligence that allows to extract intelligence, insights from the data. No? So probably we are moving to this kind of organization in a very fast way. And the last one could be about the complex system analysis and decision making. No? And the pandemic is showing us that the pandemic is a kind of wicked problem, no? Or a complex problem. No? And most of our problems as a society and as a business are complex. They have no unique approach. They have no solution really, because every time you put in order a solution, you create a new problem. They are chronic. No? And these kind of problems that are the relevant problems for us have specific needs of diagnosis and decision making.
I would just add, if I may, Juan, that
yes, of course.
I think this is a fantastic opportunity, a fantastic moment in time opportunity for managers who are in their 20s, in their 30s, who have the skill sets that Juan talked about. And why is that? Because there are many people who are going to be exhausted at the end of this. Your boss is going to be exhausted, and he's going to want to retire. And if he doesn't want to retire voluntarily, someone's going to retire him unless he really picks up his pace on digital, on AI, and on all of these new skills that are going to be necessary. It's not enough to be able to be a good manager and a good leader if you don't have a grounding in IT, in digital, in AI. You've got to know enough to be able to ask the right questions in order to survive in this era. And as I said before, a lot of what is happening today, it's going to accelerate two sectors. It's going to accelerate IT and it's going to accelerate healthcare. And, you know, if I was a young person thinking about how do I want to make a lot of money, I would say I would chase after healthcare or IT, or preferably a combination of both. But I think there are going to be a lot of managers like you and me, you know, Juan, like you and me, who are going to be maybe pretty tired at the end of all of this. And maybe we're not going to be survivors. Maybe we're going to be some of the casualties. So it's going to open up a tremendous amount of opportunity for young people to drive forward in their careers. And I really welcome that.
Okay, now let's get a little bit more self-analysis. What about us, the schools, the global educators, the business schools? What are our own challenge? We have a role to play. What will be our leadership? Are we still relevant? What do you think? What do we bring to this analysis you've been sharing with us? What are our own challenge? Who wants to start? Well,
you know, let me just start with one thought, Juan, and that is how many schools a required course in crisis management before what happened. I would guess very, very few. A lot of us are now teaching courses in crisis management, but in a sense, we weren't preparing. We were talking about change management, but we weren't really preparing our students necessarily for the level of seismic change that is represented by this virus. We were teaching globalization, but we weren't teaching anything about the potential negative associations with a global pandemic threat. We were teaching all about the positives of global efficiency and comparative trade and global supply chains. We weren't looking at the black swan that was under our nose in terms of globalization, but in a completely different arena, being a negative force on globalization in the commercial arena. So it's ironic that a global pandemic is now causing the world to relocalize and become more nationalistic and more inward looking in each country. It's a paradox, but we have to overcome that, I feel, because nevertheless, the financial interlocking of the economies of the world is still so important that it's not going to be feasible to retreat into isolationism and survive. Thank you, Juan. What will be your perspective?
Probably education is in some ways the last frontier with governments. No, the last sector that is being transformed by technology, social changes, cultural changes, and all this stuff. No, the hypothesis could be that this crisis is the tipping point, no, for this transformation. No, and I think in this sense, I would organize my ideas about the change in 5 topics. The first one is that we need to show our capacity to respond to the crisis in an effective way if we want to be credible for the future. This is the starting point. No, it's not possible to have credibility if we are not able to respond to this crisis. The second is that we are moving to the digital education, but digital education is not the education, the remote learning, teaching and learning, and the online education we are practicing right now, no, or we practice in the past, because this is remote learning, but this is based in the physical paradigm, no. It's centered in the courses, in the programs, in the synchronous sessions, and I think we need, and this is not part of the crisis, but it's part of the emerging needs of the learners. We need modularity, we need to focus in skills, and we need a lot of flexibility in the experience of the people learning. No? So digital education could be the way for that. No? For me, the digital education is the use of digital resources, tools, platforms, communities for effective learning. No? And is the way to allow for strength, flexibility, personalization, and to provide active learning experience. This is my hypothesis. No? So in this sense, digital education is not Zoom, it's not to learn only in front of a computer using the internet. It's something more complex, and that probably we have to invent and to build in the near future. And another topics that I think are relevant is that large part of our portfolio in universities and business school is a disciplinary portfolio. We are very good developing disciplinary profiles, no? for our students. And no, I don't think that this is bad. It's okay, but we need to rebalance this portfolio, and we have to. I enjoy the term mission-oriented. That is a term that is very popular and is from Mariana Mazzucato talking about innovation policy. No, mission-oriented refers to, in this case, to programs that focus in solving relevant problems, no, for society. So probably we have to think how to develop skills and programs. I don't know, for climate change, for sustainability, for human flourishing, to put an example that is very close to the techno, or how to manage AI for the human good, or public health, of healthcare, of things like that. No, so this is part of the change. The next one is, I think we need a new organizational model and capabilities for our universities. We are very classic, no, and I would imagine a school organized in 3 layers, no, not in departments, for instance. And the layers could be learning experience, the front end, efficient management, that is the back end, all the capabilities about data and artificial intelligence. This could be an alternative organization of a school or a university, and we need new capabilities in our organizations. We have already these capabilities, but we have to develop and to make stronger this capability related to design of programs, of experience, and for me it's an adaptation of service design to education, UX, digital marketing, content management, and many other things that are part of our reality, but right now are in the margins of the organization. And the last point I would share would be about the transformation of our professors, instructors, coaches, every time we want to use. No, we need new roles. Probably we need a specialization of people. No, we need good curators, good designers, good professors in master classes, good coaches, with trainers. I don't know, but probably we have to rethink all our staff and the roles they play and how they specialize or not in the different roles.
But I think Juan, the key. Perhaps the key metric that we still have to focus on is the learning outcomes for our students. And the question is going to be whether or not new and improved online or virtual learning models can deliver a value proposition in terms of learning outcomes that makes them superior to the high-priced residential on-campus experience that we're used to as our historic business model. And I think in the undergraduate arena, at least my view in the United States is that there will still be a very strong demand for a 4-year or 3-year on-campus undergraduate residential experience, because that's, you know, that's a lot more than just learning in class. That's a lot of human development that goes into the equation. But I think at the graduate level and the executive education level, we're going to have to further refine our abilities in the delivery of learning via digital or virtual interactions and experiences, as you say. And I'm not sure that, I think we've made a lot of progress in the last 8 weeks. And ironically, pretty much every university has been able to do a reasonable job of migrating its students and its professors to online. The danger in that is that it's been so easy that it's unmasked perhaps the weakness of the original business model, the residential business model. Well, if it's that easy to go online, maybe we should have been doing that all along. If we had really made a disaster of going online, then, you know, people would be saying, well, you can't substitute for the old residential model. But we've done such a good job that we've almost killed the goose that laid the golden egg, as we say in English. We've essentially shown that our business model is very expensive, and you can deliver something that's pretty equivalent at a much lower cost. So I think you're right that, you know, we may have reached a tipping point in this issue of delivery of virtual education. I expect to see more blended programs, you know, not necessarily 100% virtual or 100% digital, but full-time MBA programs, for example, that it might involve a digital component that perhaps involves digital team projects with partner schools around the world, rather than physical visits to such campuses. So I think more blended is going to be the wave of the immediate future.
The new normal. And I'm going to get back to that, John, later. But now, one of the most, we've been receiving different questions, and one keeps repeating in different ways as, what will be the added value for a person to pursue executive education, an MBA, after the post-COVID? What are we going to give back to the student? What will be, will be a student an MBA after a post-COVID situation? What will you think about it?
Well, I mean, the number one reason that we see in every survey why people invest in an MBA or any other master's degree is to accelerate and advance their career outcomes, either through new skills learned or through networks that they can tap into as a result of the affiliation with the brand. So, you know, these two components of accelerated career outcomes, I think they apply as much now as they did before. What we have seen in the MBA market, the 2-year full-time MBA market, I think most people in the audience will know is really very challenged as a product, and there is product demand erosion rather than demand increase in that segment of the business school market. And I think the reason for it is that the business schools outside of the top 4 or 5 cannot readily prove that the return on investment of a 2-year residential MBA program is superior to, let's say, a 1-year Masters of Science in Business Analytics or a 1-year MS in Finance. And so that is why in our school, and I think in EGADE as well, there's a portfolio of programs that cater to those looking for specialist capability, as well as those looking to be general managers. But from a management point of view, the big challenge that comes with this is the following. If you are running a business school and the full-time MBA program gradually falling in terms of enrollment, the problem with that is that the full-time MBA program is really the product that is the social glue of the faculty in a business school. To put on an MBA, you need to have, the finance person needs to work with the marketing person, needs to work with the organization behavior professor, the statistics professor, the economics professor. When that program erodes and you are then left with the finance department runs the MS in finance, the marketing department has an MS in marketing, the management science department has an MS in business analytics, you're back in a very siloed world. And these people who graduate from these programs, they may get a good short-term ROI on 10 months invested in this program, but they are not being trained to be general managers and leaders. And eventually, they're gonna need general management training. And I'm not so sure that they're gonna get it necessarily from the companies that they are being hired by. So I personally feel, as someone with an MBA, that the MBA degree with its general management orientation is of huge importance to society still.
Thank you. Juan, how do you perceive it?
I think that I was thinking that actually EGADE probably is a good example of this shift, no? Because EGADE was already working in how to maximize the flexibility, the personalization, how to make seamless experience, no? To how to integrate, how to work in active projects. So this is the ingredients of I think of the future of the business skills. And I would use the words of John and say that probably if the business schools provide network and learning as outcomes, we have to provide more value in both sides, in the network part and in the learning part. This could be the equation we have to solve to continue this transformation. And yes, it's clear that the business schools have a very robust and classical model with a few programs or with a fixed duration and things like that, and probably all these aspects are going to change in the future.
In this, going back at the beginning of the conversation, John, that you mentioned, short, medium, long term, how do you both perceive how much time we have as a business school to reframe ourselves? Should we hurry up? Should we think slow? How do you perceive it? This is a very critical question for us at the moment.
Yeah. So I think some business schools are better placed than others because they have already developed a portfolio of programs, and therefore optionality is built into their business model. So at University of Miami, for example, we would have, I think it's 15 to 20 programs at the master's level. Various combinations that include full-time, part-time, weekend, global executive MBA, all variations of the MBA theme, and then around about 8 specialist master's programs that include some cash cows like our MS in finance, but also some new programs. For example, we have the first, and I think still the only STEM certified MS in sustainable business in the United States, which is taught in conjunction with our schools of marine science and engineering. So I think actually, as is often the case, companies that are, business schools like companies that are not so strong, not at the top of the existing market, they have already had to be versatile, adaptive, and embracing of change. You know, when Harvard Business School, by contrast, you know, Harvard Business School last year, I think, did maybe $120 million of revenue in face-to-face executive education. Right now, they are looking at zero because everybody has postponed. And meanwhile, at the University of Miami, and I'm sure it's true at EGADE and elsewhere, you know, we are out there marketing virtual and online executive education as an alternative to face-to-face. You know, we're saying to our clients, look, you can't afford at this moment of crisis to not be exposing your executives to new ideas, to have them engaging with each other in testing out new business models and so on. We have a program that we can deliver interactively but digitally via Zoom to keep your managers alert, interested, and growing in their thinking. Now, you know, is Harvard Business School going to be doing that as we are right now? No, they're still benefiting from $36 billion of endowment, and they're going to take a year to figure out what we're figuring out in 5 minutes, because we have to survive, and they just have a nice financial cushion. So I think you know, the more plucky, less well-resourced institutions like ours have already been embracing change and are likely to potentially do better in this environment.
Thank you. Juan?
This is the question. I have no answer to the question, really. No, it's a speculative answer. How long we need? How long we need for the change could be another question. No, we have to think that we are not starting right now. Yeah. The basic idea is, okay, we have to accelerate some changes we were managing and we were implementing already. And this is from my point of view quite important. Is not to, we are not going to be crazy with change right now. No, we have to. And for me, the question is about the finance, the financial pressures we have for that. And this is the context where we have to develop our strategy. And the second one could be how long we need for that. No, we are able to accelerate, to move faster than we were planning. We have a meeting last week talking about the strategic plan of the tech for the 2030. And we were talking about the 2030, and some people say, okay, we are talking about the 2030, but really probably we have to talk about the 2025. No, so we have to accelerate to make the change not in 10 years, but in 5 years. So I think the order of magnitude could be a few years to accomplish the change we need.
Thank you, Juan. Let me go with the last couple of questions from the audience, actually. You've been mentioning Zoom and other methodologies. The audience is questioning, do you see any main technological developments in education? Besides using Zoom and all this, are we moving towards more technological developments?
Well, two responses. First of all, one response would be to say that we're not really looking at changing content so much as changing the delivery method. So it's really a distribution change rather than a product change. And maybe that's not going to be sufficient. Maybe we need more of a product change. But I think those of us who have used Zoom, as I indicated before, you know, at first it's a lot of fun and you're commanding a new technology, but after a certain amount of time, it gets pretty boring and the novelty effect of Zoom wears off. And I think that in many aspects, of course, some people differ from others, but in many respects, you're still going to need that face-to-face interaction in order to build trust. So in an interaction like this, you know, we can have a very good dialogue and it's very good. But let us say we were venture capitalists trying to close a deal via Zoom. I don't know many venture capitalists, even those who are tech oriented, who would say, I want to close $100 million deal without looking the person in the eye, without smelling the room, without looking at the body language in the room. You know, that's not so easy to do via Zoom. So that's, I think, my main comment. You know, we're still going as human beings to need to have the trust in each other that can, I think, only really come from that face-to-face interaction.
Thank you. Juan, you want to add something?
Yes. Being a little bit radical, I would say that we don't need more technological innovation, in the sense that we have already all the tools, all the technologies we need, and we need to experiment with them and to implement and to prove the value, the value in terms of learning of this technology. So our bottleneck is not the technology, okay, but at the same time, I have to say that we have educational technology is a field where many people is making very interesting developments, and probably they are not revolutionary in the sense we can think, but they are necessary. To put an example is, without entering in details, for instance, the LMS, the Learning Management System, that is a classical tool. No, I see a very old tool, a digital but a very old tool. Actually, there are many developments in the last years that they are making a revolution in the way we manage contents and provide a learning experience, for instance. But it's not a different technology, it's the evolution of the technology we have.
And actually, and this will be my last question, one of the comments from the audience, actually, that keep repeating was, what will be the right balance with this digital education and face-to-face that we've been discussing?
One, I think it really depends what the projected learning outcomes are. Let's say, for example, that you're running a company and you want to learn the latest in supply chain management. You could probably go online and find a course from maybe MIT Sloan School or Georgia Tech that would do an excellent job in that regard. But let's say you're a company and you've just merged with another company and you have a major cultural integration issue and you have 20 top managers from both companies that need to get to know each other and to learn about the way each does business in order to develop a common culture, a common value system. Can you do that digitally? I don't think so. So I think the mix is really a function of what the task and the objective is.
Good point. Juan?
My question, my answer is it depends. No, it depends of the user. If we think in a person that is with a job of 12 hours daily, probably this person needs completely digital education. No? If you need a young person that have 3-4 years to develop a licenciatura, a bachelor, probably the best option is to have the residential experience. But we have to think that actually the physical experience is also a digital experience. The digital context is in everything we make, and this is the key point about digital education. It's not about remote education. This is part of the reality, but the other part is that the digital tools could be quite powerful for the residential or physical learning also.
All right, thank you both. A few minutes left for having a small wrap up, if you wish, in our talk today. For our big audience that we had today, what would we say as a wrap up comments?
I'd just like to thank you again, Juan, for the kind invitation from our friends at EGADE, and hope that not too long we see you in Miami and are able to enjoy a nice meal together there.
Thank you. You bet, John. I'd love to.
Thanks, John. For me, I think we are entering interesting times, and let's experiment and learn about this new normal of the future. And I think this is the mindset to confront this reality. And I expect to meet John in a short time in Miami.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you, the three Juans today. You having an evaluation now, please. The audience, please follow the evaluation. And let me thank you, all the participants today, and also invite you to our next webinar next Wednesday at the same hour. We're gonna have a great discussion. We're gonna go back to Spanish. Vamos a tener una excelente plática con Desiree Carson, psicoterapeuta y formadora ejecutiva, de estos temas, cómo transitamos a la incertidumbre en la vida post-COVID, junto con Jaime García Rano, nuestro decano asociado de educación ejecutiva, parte de los webinars que estamos organizando para ustedes. All right, thank you very much, John and Juan. It was a pleasure to have you both here today. And we're working very close, as John said, the EGADE and Miami Business School, we're working very close, and we are in the same track. So have a nice Monday, and thank you very much. Thank you for the audience too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.